I have been in the music performance, creation, and design since I was 9 years old, so a very long time, 51 years in fact, and I genuinely love music and sound, but in the last year or two, AI-generated music has really taken off, and it's finally good enough for me to test, and I'll give you my thoughts about the future of music in general. So let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. Today I'm going to use Suno as my test bed that is supposedly the best AI music generator. I want to give you a little bit of background. Like I said, I started performing music when I was 9 years old. I was in a men and boys choir at the Episcopal Church growing up. I'm going to actually try to generate some music along those lines in my tests. And as an undergraduate at Princeton, I got an effective music minor. They didn't give minors, but basically I got a music. I took enough classes that in any other university it would have been considered a minor in music theory, composition, etc. And I did computer music, I did traditional music composition, all of that kind of stuff. I never was particularly good, but I did compose music. I have learned to play the piano quite poorly. I played the trumpet reasonably well, the French horn rather poorly, and singing has been my primary music outlet. I also have composed a little bit for theater, just fanfares and things like that, and have done a lot of sound design for theater. And back in 2018, which was unfortunately about 1 year too early, I spent about 6 months trying to get AI to generate Bach-related music. I had thousands of clips that I had downloaded from CDs and things like that, chopped them into little bits. And the problem was that the Transformer paper came out in December of 2017. No one at the time realized it could be used for things like images and sound and stuff, although that's obvious now. So what I did instead was I used a convolutional neural network with a one-dimensional filter, which made perfect sense because it's basically filtering along this direction. And that gave me my millisecond continuity. And then what I used for the overall form of each piece of music or each little bit of music was a Fourier transform spectral frequency, basically an image of it. And so I used a traditional CNN for that, and then I blended them together, and I was actually starting to get some results, even though the faculty, I graduated in 2019 with my master's degree, and I was a student at the time. I was just working on this on my own, but every single faculty member was like, this is never going to work. No way in hell that we will ever see AI generated music. Fast forward 7 years and you can see just how wrong that faculty was. And I'm a little disappointed. I spent a lot of months working on it, started to get results, and then got distracted by other things. And I was like, man, if I don't keep after this right now, somebody else is going to do this for me. And I'm going to be sitting and watching and using it rather than creating it. And here we are in 2025 and I'm sitting and watching it rather than creating it. At least I'm creating some other stuff right now that I can't really talk about, which I really wish I could. But, you know, so I'm fulfilled on that realm, but I am sad about the fact I didn't continue down that path because it would have been really cool to have been involved in this as it was built from scratch. So all that is to say that I have a lot of background in music, in sound design, actually in AI generated music back in the day. With that being said, what I want to do is try to generate a few different things that people, I don't know, I feel like people haven't done this enough, and so I want to do some testing. You can see that I've created a completely new account here. I haven't even filled in what genres of music I like at this point. But basically I want to create a grunge rock track, you know, aka Nirvana or something like that. All of these genres, of course, are things I'm very familiar with, so I should be able to judge reasonably well. I then want to do a trumpet and brass fanfare for the play Macbeth, and I'll get into more details about the prompt for that. I want to do a jazz piece a la John Coltrane, as in his 1965 classic, A Love Supreme. I want to do a classical men and boys choir. Like I said, I started off singing in the Episcopal Church, which effectively was Church of England. So that should be an interesting deep cut, right? We'll see if it's able to generate something that is much more niche than sort of pop music. And then I want to ask it to create 3 looping tracks, and I'm going to bring those into Logic, and I'm going to see if they actually track out and you can build a piece of music off of that. Because I haven't seen people try to build looping tracks yet, so I'd be very interested to see if that will work. So let's go ahead and pick a few of these things. Gosh, most of the stuff I'm not super interested in at the beginning. Sure, reggae, Afro beats, let's see, synth pop, definitely classical, trance, why not? And let's see, just a couple of other ones here. Tech house, synthwave. I'm sure this won't be complete, but it's okay. I feel like there's 1 or 2. Yeah, we'll do some swing, maybe some techno. Sure, why not? And then, sure, we'll do that for my name. That's fine. And then apparently my birthday is this. I'm just going to put in 01, 01. 1965. That's at least it's the right year. That's usually what I put in for a fake birthday because I'm like, I can remember January 1st. That's a reasonable thing. So there's my little cheat. So I've got my workspace here, and we can just go to home. And the first thing maybe is just look at what it's decided to, serve up for me here. So let's take a look at cash flow, trap, jazz, etc. So let's take a listen to this. Hopefully this will work. I need to probably set the audio level a little bit here, but we will find out how that works.
Yeah, big brain, no pain. I don't even gotta try. Make a million while I sleep. I just met.
All right, that was way too hot. Let's try again anyway. Sounded interesting. It sounded pretty much like you would expect it to sound.
Got 5, now my wallet overweight. It be struggling to survive. Okay, cash flow stupid. It got straight A's. Wallet like a textbook.
Okay. So sounds pretty reasonable, like, standard pop music these days. Let's try Age of Aquarius. That sounds interesting. Like maybe it's kind of a 60s sort of thing, like the dawning of the Age of Aquarius. Okay. Okay. Gonna get a drop here. There we go. Okay, cool. I mean, I gotta say, I kind of like that. So anyway, obviously you can go and create your own account if you haven't already and easily get suggested songs for you. I'm more interested in creating stuff, so let's go ahead and take my first prompt up here. I'm going to ask it to create a grunge rock piece similar to Nirvana about Waiting for Godot, which is a famous play by Samuel Beckett. I want it to be based around the key of D minor, which is a very unsettling key with major and minor key shifts. So let's see what it does and how long it takes to create this. I'm very curious. I have not really tried this out recently. So apparently this didn't take too long, and it gave me 2 choices, and I don't know. It still says I have 100 credits, so I'm not sure why it hasn't used any of my credits, but we will see. So let's give this a try and see what we get. Oh, I get my verses, and of course you can see that it gives cover art too, which is very, very cool.
Stuck here in this hell of time, words like echoes drift and climb, faces blurring smoky.
Okay, here we go. Get to the chorus here.
Endless nights and wasted days. Waiting.
Oh, nice. Kind of like that. Bad, honestly.
Nothing comes but the void inside, whispering truths we can't deny.
Okay. I don't think that sounds particularly like Nirvana, but that's pretty decent. So let's try this next one, Waiting in the Fog. So let's give this a shot and see what this one sounds like. Oh, this got a little bit more of that grungy guitar sound, right?
Stuck here in this hell of time.
It still doesn't quite have that like real grunginess to it, right? Like it does have, it's got kind of a nice little minor key little thing going on, stuff like that.
Faces blur in smoky.
We'll wait for it to play the chorus here and see what it does.
Endless nights and wasted days. Waiting, what do we find?
Trying to think of what band this sounds like more than Nirvana. Something mid-90s or something, right? Not quite early 90s like Nirvana.
Nothing comes but the void inside.
But still, I mean, it's captivating. It works.
Whispering truth we can't.
Let's see how it transitions to the verse here. Okay, I mean, so, I wouldn't consider that terrible. Those are both listenable pieces of music. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new one here. All right, so this one is very specific. I want a trumpet and brass fanfare like royalty for Macbeth's first entrance as king in the Shakespeare play. It needs to have something, quote, broken about it, as he has cheated and murdered to get where he is. On the surface, it should sound joyous, but underneath, it should indicate how morally bankrupt Macbeth is. Now, as a little caveat, or I don't know, not caveat, but anyway, I created this myself several years ago. I did did the sound design for a version of Macbeth, and I did a couple of different fanfares, and I actually took one fanfare and I made it more and more broken over time. So I'm not going to try to make it get that into it at this point, but so I have an idea in my head about what this would sound like, so I'm very interested to hear what this ended up sounding like. So we've got the Hollow Crown. That's a cool name. I really like that for the fanfare. So we will see. Dramatic brass fanfare. So let's go ahead. Let's see if there's banner. Oh my goodness. So I think we might actually have words with this, which I did not ask for. I probably should have said no vocals. Let's see. Ooh, very synthy. Ugh.
Trumpets flare and the banners fly high.
This is really not what I was expecting. Very, very synthy. It kind of has a feel of like a musical play, however. So let's go ahead and take a look at this other one here. Let's take a stab at this one. So it looks like the same words, I think. And it's a little bit too... this could work. That we're going to actually get words in this one. So this will be better if it doesn't.
Trumpets flare and the banners fly high.
This sounds so Broadway musical, it just cracks me up. Or maybe off-Broadway musical. It's got that synthy sound. It's got the little over-the-top Broadway voice. It's just, that's hysterical. Not at all what I'm looking for, and I'm sure I could iterate on this, but that's very funny. Not at all what I was looking for, but really amusing. I obviously need to put in like no words to keep it from generating words because it wants to make a song. All right, so now let's do a John Coltrane jazz piece about horrible Atlanta traffic. If you've ever been in the Atlanta area, you know what I'm talking about. I want piano, sax, string bass, drums, and muted trumpet. We'll see if it decides to provide words for this as well. Okay, so weirdly enough, it told me because I had in the style of an artist, I'm not allowed to do that. That's obviously a safety feature. So we'll see if we can get, just by mentioning the name of the piece, let's see if it will actually create the piece for me. Is it going to do it or is it not going to? That was an interesting little caveat that I noticed that it decided it was not going to do that. Okay, Atlanta Jam. So it appears that it is going to do it now because I didn't. So you can cheat by putting in a piece or pieces that the artist did, even if you're not allowed to mention their name. So a little cheat code for you in case you need to know that. Okay, so Love in the Fast Lane. So looks like both of these are the same. Okay, so we actually do have words. So we will see. I'm very curious what this is going to sound like. Cool. Okay. Nice. It's got a nice kind of beat going with it here.
Oh, Atlanta streets are clogged and tight.
Yeah, okay.
Brake lights blinking in the
I feel like we need a little more of a
dying
Billie
light.
Holiday voice. This is a little too clean for my taste. I'd like it to be.
Red tail rivers.
You can tell I'm very kind of grungy. I like a little more grungy stuff.
Caught in the rhythm, lost in time divine.
All right, that's not so bad.
Traffic weaves, it hums, it sighs.
Okay, cool. Let us try the second one and see what that one sounds like. Oh, much more contemplative immediately. I don't know if this sounds real jazzy though. Interesting.
Oh, Atlanta streets.
Nah, don't like this one as well. Definitely not nearly as much of the correct jazz feel as the other one, although the other one still doesn't feel exactly like Coltrane. So anyway, all right, so let's go ahead and try for a deeper cut here. I'm going to ask it to do a choral piece. This should be interesting because I think that, this is going to push it a little bit harder. This is a pretty deep cut here. So I've asked it to create a classical men and boys choir English church music offertory anthem in the style of William Byrd famously did Ave Verum Corpus, about calling on God to help us survive the traffic jam of life. So So I've spent too much time driving around in traffic lately, obviously. So both of them are called Deliver Us. They're called Sacred Choral Classical Polyphonic. Okay, this all seems quite reasonable in terms of the description. So let's take a listen. Wow, that is a really cool image to go with this. I love it.
O Lord of mercy, hear our plea today.
Let's see if it builds. We've got a soloist, obviously.
The streets are crowded.
I think this sounds more like a woman than a boy, though, right? It's got that richer sense of like a female vocal, adult female vocal.
Confusion.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely not a boy's voice. So interesting. Let's see where we get to the. Okay.
Each horn that
No. I don't like this at all. This is not choral. This is that's more Broadway, honestly. It still sounds very Broadway. Okay, so let's try.
O Lord of mercy, hear our plea today.
It's definitely still a female voice. Adult female, not...
The streets are crowded, chaos finds its way.
Still very hot. It's very, very Broadway. This thing seems to love Broadway tunes. Don't know what it says about Suno, but it seems to really want to go into that Broadway tune sort of sound.
Where safe havens are found.
Yeah, definitely disappointing. That is not at all what I was hoping for. I was hoping for something much more. But like I said, this is a deep cut. This is very, very niche to go into. That it's something that's not popular. So there's not nearly as many training examples of this as there would be of pop songs or something. So obviously we're going to have some more issues. Alrighty, so now we're going to try to do some looping stuff that I will try to put together in Logic and see if it actually syncs up. So the first one I'm going to ask it to do is a looping guitar lick of 100 BPS in the style of Counting Crows. Let's see if it, oh yep, it won't generate that, so darn it. Let's see, I'll put in a song in particular and see if I can get around this problem. All right, so let's see if we can put in Mrs. Potter's Lullaby. I think that's somewhere around 100 beats per minute. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. But anyway, I want a looping guitar lick at 100 beats per second in the style of the song Mrs. Potter's Lullaby about Lebanon, Kansas, the centermost town in the U.S. and probably pretty boring aside from that. Don't know if I've ever been there or not. But I'm concerned that what we're going to get is an actual song and not a yep. It's not giving us a guitar lick. So let's see. I like it. I mean, it sounds good.
A town so quiet.
Okay, I'm going to try again here. I'm going to back this up and attempt to create something that is just the guitar and just a stub. I'll identify it as a stub. Okay, so I've reached my 200, character limit or whatever. So I said it must only be guitar and just a 4-chord lick that loops back on itself. So let's see if we have any better luck with this time. And maybe, I think I'm pushing Suno to do things it doesn't want to. But if you're going to be a music producer or engineer, this is exactly what you want, is just little loops and stuff, right? You want to be able to create these things quickly and utilize them. Interestingly enough, it says, it seems you've requested a guitar lick. So I have no idea what's going to happen with this. Let's find out.
It seems you've requested a guitar lick here rather than lyrics for a song. Unfortunately, I can't generate or play audio directly. However, I can describe the chords for a looping 4-chord progression that might fit your idea.
That is wildly inappropriate, but very, very amusing. All right, just for the heck of it, let's try looping vocals and see what happens. So hopefully we'll actually get some vocals, and because it's asking for vocals this time, it'll be happier. So that was very, very weird. Storytelling folk rock, I'm not positive we're going to end up with the right thing here, but I got to say the cool part about this is it does generate these really relatively quickly, and it doesn't seem to use up the credits all that fast either. I mean, I just have a free account, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, this is not going to work. Okay.
In the heart of the map lies
So,
where we
too country,
begin.
not enough Counting Crows. I mean, I know Counting Crows delves into the country a little bit. The other thing is that I think I could actually probably take that guitar lick, I could probably cut that and use that as a 4-chord. And I think I could use that 4 bars and I could actually loop that, I think, and it should work just from listening to it quickly. But yeah, too country and unfortunately doing the whole thing. So clearly Suno is limited in what it will give you because it's giving you a song. It's not giving you pieces. And of course, the deeper the cut I tried to do, the more away from like popular music, hip hop, things like that, the worse the results were. They became further and further away from the expected results, what you might imagine you would get out of it. So that's testing Suno. If you all happen to have used Suno more extensively and you know ways to trick it into doing things that you want to do better, like doing looping licks and things like that, definitely let me know in the comments. I would like to know. I'm fairly much obviously a neophyte at doing this. I've, dipped into these things once in a while and prompted them for different music styles and things like that. And I've always been disappointed. I'm still disappointed, but I'm less disappointed. I guess that's the short of it. Now, what does this mean for the future of the music industry? Because I promised I would talk about that at the end of this video. The future of the music industry is going to be grim for a period of time. I think that what I'm seeing here is that the pieces that are the most trained on, which will be the most popular forms of music and stuff from the past 20 years or so, are going to be the easiest for it to reproduce. And as it just so happens, that pop music is so processed now that it doesn't sound real anymore. Sounds like it's being done by a computer anyway. So I think that this stuff is going to be very, very competitive with pop music in that sort of realm of things. This is not going to disturb the likes of Taylor Swift and stuff. They're already on top. Just like with other industries, I say this, that the problem right now, just the same thing as for computer programming or something. It's not if you're a famous AI scientist and a famous computer programmer or something, you're going to do fine. It's the people coming out of school right now who have like all the ambition and the skills, but they don't have any reputation yet. Those people, same as with the music and engineering and art and all of that kind of stuff, those people are going to find it very difficult to get a job because the competition is huge with this. And of course, Suno and their competitors are already flooding things like Spotify with tons and tons of songs that are good enough for people to listen to. So I think we've got significant problems coming up for the music industry, just like every other industry, and it's primarily for those trying to break into the industry. My son does a lot of audio engineering and production and creates hip-hop music and stuff like that, and this is very, very bad news for him because this is directly competitive with what he does and the skills, which was why I was specifically looking for looping pieces and stubs and stuff like that, because I thought, well, maybe he can generate those and put them together in interesting ways, but it seems like Suno is not the product for that. It fights you if you try to do something like that. So you've got that end of things. The further away you get from pop music, the more you get towards natural sounding music like orchestral music or more traditional rock music that's a little less processed and stuff, the better off you are in terms of being an artist in the music industry. That's my opinion, of course. But I think that what you're going to see is that the less processed the music is, the less quality you're going to get out of a product like Suno, at least for the time being, and therefore the more differentiated you will be as an artist from these AI generated things. So that seems to be one direction to go. The other direction to go that I would highly recommend is do everything live as much as you can. Be out in front of the public, do things in front of people. People love to watch artists in person. That's a really big part of people's interaction with that. They want to see the humanity behind it. And that's quite clearly something that AI can't do yet. It doesn't exist as a physical form. It's just in the interwebs. So it's only there virtually. And if you can do things live, that's something that AI is not going to be able to do for quite a while. Yeah, eventually there may be, violin playing robots and stuff like that, but that's going to be a while down the line. So I don't think you have to worry about that in the near future. So my recommendation would be stay away from hip hop, highly processed pop music, things like that. Stay away from that, create music in other areas and try to do it live as much as possible. That's going to be the only way to compete with this stuff in the next few years, because remember, this is just going to get better. Suno is going to get better. The competition is going to get better. We're going to get things that will eventually become pretty indistinguishable, at least in the primary genres, will become pretty indistinguishable from, produced music that's already out there. And that's just going to flood the market. If you can do 1,000 of these things a day and you can only create one song every month or something, just as a order of magnitude kind of estimation, there's no chance that you're going to be able to compete with this stuff. So as with every other industry, things are looking pretty grim for the music industry in the short term. I think eventually people will find that live music music and human created music has a big benefit, but that's going to be half a decade, five plus years from now before people will feel that way about that, I think. And I think that in the meantime, we're just going to have a flood of better and better and better AI generated music. So the further you can stay away from the sort of more processed music that's out there today, the pop music, as a musical artist, the better off you're going to be. As a designer, I think that this is fantastic for design. You know, you can pop out something really quick, at least as a temp track for design for films or for plays or things like that, and probably come up with a final track. That's also bad for people doing film and play scoring, for composers doing that. What are you going to say? It's just a lot easier to iterate on something like this and produce it quickly. So this is highly disruptive, no question about it, but I think it's not quite as disruptive as people think it might be, as long as you think carefully about this and use AI to the best of your ability. Don't run away from this stuff. Utilize it as you need to, either as an aid in composing something or as a background tracks or something that you can sing against. Let's say you can't play the guitar yet. Maybe you can get this thing to play the guitar for you and you can sing a song. So you can compose a song even though you have no ability to play guitar. So there's a lot of possibilities if you're open to it, but there is going to be a lot of disruption. That is the long and short of things, as with pretty much every other industry where AI is encroaching. Alrighty, folks, that's what I've got. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this while you're down there. If you don't mind liking the video, it really helps other people to discover this video. And if you want to subscribe, that would be fantastic. You can see more things like this. And in the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.